Inside the Magic, show number 358 for February 12th, 2012. It is Sunday, February 12th, 2012. This is show 358 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I am your host, Ricky Briganti. We do have another great show, packed with Disney and theme park news, and a whole lot more fun. And before we get started with all of that, I do invite you to visit InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and so much more. And if you ever have any news, tips, or questions, you can write to me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. The Disney Cruise Line is closer than ever with sailings from New York, Galveston, Orlando, and Los Angeles. So book your Disney cruise vacation today for the best pricing and receive free shipboard credit. You can do all that by calling Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387, or you can visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And by Audible, get a free audiobook download, a free trial, and access to over 85,000 titles to choose from all over at audibletrial.com/InsideTheMagic. And of course, thanks very much to listeners like you, and very much to Fan Zhang. I may have pronounced your name wrong, and I apologize if I did, but thank you very much for your donation this week, and of course to all of our monthly recurring donation subscribers and everybody who clicks through those affiliate links over on the website. All is very much appreciated. Now, let's get started with our trip around the world. So here we are, show 358, and we're going to be doing things a little bit differently this week for a variety of reasons, which I will mention in just a second. But first up, here at the top of the show, I want to mention that if you've been to InsideTheMagic.net, I don't know, over the last year or so, the site has been getting increasingly popular with, just a lot of really big news that we've been covering, and more and more and more content. Of course, the more that we add, the more people find us via Google or other links or wherever. And because of all of that, the site has been getting increasingly slower and slower as well, and more error-filled and all of that. Well, fortunately, I'm happy to say all of that seems to be fixed, at least for now. I'm sure as it continues to grow, it will suffer some growing pains once again. But for now, if you visit our website at InsideTheMagic.net, you should notice a considerable improvement over recent performance. So if you've ever had any difficulties accessing it, hopefully all of that is gone. And I really do want to know if you ever have any troubles in the near future, because I'm really hoping that recent upgrades to the server that it's running on will indeed fix those issues. So please feel free to check it out, InsideTheMagic.net. In fact, I encourage you to do so, and hopefully all will be nice and fast and speedy and good for you. So, as I mentioned, a little bit different of a show this week. Number one, I'm actually technically recording this on Saturday night, although in 2 minutes it will be midnight. It'll be Sunday, so we'll just call it Sunday. I'm still releasing this on Sunday, February 12th, that is, and so that is this week's show. So that's one difference. I've got a busy Sunday full of things to do. But anyway, that doesn't matter if you're listening or watching this later. What does matter is the content of this week's show. This week it's kind of a rare occurrence. There was nothing in particular to feature as a big main feature. I've been talking about Disneyland for the last couple of weeks, had some big events happening. This week I didn't even make it to a theme park, which normally I try to, get to a park at least once a week or so. And so because of that, there is no big main feature in this week's show. It's actually been a very busy sort of business Lanyard Lab week for me as well. But even though there's always time for Inside the Magic, of course, and so even though I don't have a big review or report to share, I do have plenty of smaller news stories, and it's actually a pretty big news week, as I said. And so what I'm going to do this week is sort of follow up news stories as I talk about them with some of my own opinions. Not something I normally do, but I thought I'd throw it out there this this time and see what you think. So in addition, of course, I'll also be answering your questions and comments and listener feedback and all of that after the news section here. Maybe field a few from the live chat room watching on this late Saturday night recording, and who knows what else I'll include. But thought it would be fun just to try something a little bit different this week for the show. So with all of that said, let's get to the first news story. And as I said, I am recording this Saturday night, technically, February 11th. And just a little while ago was some very surprising news that is not entirely Disney related, but I thought I would mention it here just because it is the current talk on everybody's mind that legendary singer Whitney Houston passed away just a few hours ago. She was 48 years old, had 2 Emmys, 6 Grammys, 30 Billboard Music Awards, 22 American Music Awards, no doubt. She was a music icon, and normally I wouldn't mention something that has, something like this on this show because this is, of course, about Disney and theme park toppings, but topics, not toppings. Clearly I'm thinking about dinner or something, but anyway, Whitney Houston, of course, certainly a loss to the musical world, and I think just about everybody out there in some form, every celebrity is connected to the world of Disney somewhere. So, of course, I went searching a little bit and came across something that I was not terribly familiar with, but apparently many people are fans of. Back in 1997, Disney, along with Whitney Houston, produced a live-action version of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, in which Whitney Houston starred. So there was Whitney Houston's connection to the Disney universe, and so just as kind of a little tribute here to Whitney Houston, I did want to play just a little bit of one of her performances from that film, the live-action version of Cinderella, that seems like so many Disney fans really have enjoyed as well. So let's offer a little bit of that here near the show, and then we'll come back with some more Disney news as well. And so here it is. This is, again, 1997's Rodgers and Hammerstein. This is one song starring Whitney Houston and Brandy.
Impossible for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage. Impossible for a plain country pumpkin and a prince to join in marriage. And 4 white mice will never be 4 white horses. Such folderol and fiddle-dee-dee of courses. Impossible. But the world is full of zanies and fools who don't believe in sensible rules and won't believe what sensible people say. And because these daft and dewy-eyed dopes keep building up impossible hopes, impossible things are happening every day. Impossible. 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 Impossible.
So there you go. Just a little bit of Whitney Houston tribute there. Of course, it is sad that she has left us. I'm sure she'll have there'll be quite a tribute on tomorrow night's Grammy Awards. I'm sure many are working on planning that, but that's all I'll say about that here at the top of the news. So moving on from there, let's get to some theme park topics here, where there, as I said earlier, a surprising amount of news this week, and I'll be talking about it all here as we sort of move from story to story. I will certainly be adding some extra thoughts this week, and we'll see how that goes. So let's not delay with that any further and talk about the first story from Disney's Animal Kingdom. I also want to mention that as I'm going, I'm going to play some music related to each story. This is something that I did early on, way back when Inside the Magic first started. I tried to have the music all synchronized with or relate to the story that I was talking about. So let's do that again this week just for fun, have a large variety of music. So as you hear this music, you should think of Disney's Animal Kingdom, of course, and Kilimanjaro Safaris, where this week Disney announced that some pretty big changes are going to be going on in the near future over at that attraction, where the Little Red, the elephant, will no longer be part of the climactic finale of Kilimanjaro Safaris. In fact, they're going to be changing that whole area completely beginning in spring of this year. They're going to be adding more live zebra to the area, along with a new watering hole, and going to be removing removing that audio animatronics figure, the truck, and the whole surrounding area. So all of Kilimanjaro Safaris will now be live animals rather than this one fake elephant near the end of the attraction. Apparently, the story of the ride is going to be a little bit different as well. It's still going to have a conservation message to it, but you won't necessarily be chasing the poachers and all of that. Not saying that is definitely completely going away. In fact, Disney's not saying one way or the other at all, but apparently it's all going to be completed by fall 2012. The ride is going to remain open throughout the changeovers, so you don't have to worry about going to Animal Kingdom and not seeing Kilimanjaro Safaris. And in my opinion, I think this is a good change. It was always a bit odd to ride Kilimanjaro Safari, see real elephants, and then head on over, keep going and going and going, and you go through all the back and forth, between the geysers and all that, and then you get to this sort of little goofy-looking, swinging its head back and forth elephant in a truck that clearly was not real. Definitely a bit odd to have that mixture, so it'll be good to have sort of reality-ish. I mean, clearly it's all still in a Disney theme park. There's a fantasy element to it there, but a more realistic and certainly real animals throughout. And it'll be good to have a better spot for the zebra to hang out closer to the vehicles and be able to see them very well. So I think it is a good change. I'll miss it if the warden doesn't come on his helicopter over the radio ever again. But, I'm sure Disney will make the attraction just as fun as it always has been. Certainly is a highlight of any visit to Disney's Animal Kingdom. So let's move on to the next story now, and we'll change up the music, like I said, although this was the best music I could come up with in this story. I don't think there's an official song related to Disney's FastPass system. This is some news that has a lot of people very up in arms, if you will, very frustrated with a change that apparently is going to be happening in the near future at Walt Disney World. Cast members have been told that starting on March 7th, just a few weeks from now, a little less than a month from now, Disney's going to begin enforcing the end time on a FastPass ticket. So let's say you go to Space Mountain, you grab a ticket, it says you can return between 3 and 4 p.m. Well, of course, since the invention of FastPass, you could always never return before that start time, the 3 p.m. in this example, but you could generally ignore the second time, the 4 p.m. part of it in this example, and come back whenever you wanted that same day. You can come back much later in the day. Well, now apparently Disney is going to start enforcing that second half of it to where you can only return to the attraction during that 1 hour window, and if you're there either early or late, too bad. You're not getting on the ride. And it's not that Disney is necessarily changing their rules, because that technically has always been the rule. You're supposed to return during that window. But it's that Disney's going to begin enforcing that rule. And it's been said, though not officially, that the reason for this change is looking toward the future on something that even Tom Staggs just mentioned at a conference a few days ago. Tom Staggs, chairman of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, that Disney World specifically is working on a system for the future, unknown exactly when it'll roll out, where you'll be able to, let's say, reserve ride times from home before you go to the park. Just like you'll pick a dining reservation, you'll also pick your ride reservations. And in order for that system to work, they really need to rein in the FastPass system that exists in the park. So that is essentially, it seems, why Disney is now going to begin, Walt Disney World is going to be enforcing these times. Now, some statistics seem to suggest that most people do arrive during that window. There's a small amount of people that kind of take advantage of the system and show up after that ride window. I mean, I know personally, if I go to Jungle Cruise and grab a FastPass and it says I can come back at 2 p.m., I'm there at 2:01 p.m. I don't want to wait an extra amount of time just to, for the sake of it. Yes, sometimes schedules change, and, you could be watching a parade, watching the fireworks, eating dinner, have to, go to a bathroom break, or, things come up, and you won't necessarily make it back in time. But for the most part, most guests apparently do make it back during that window, and that's why Disney feels that this change is not going to be such a bad thing, and that it'll really be part of this greater enhancement, as much as they're thinking that with the FastPass system will get better. In my opinion, I don't know about the whole at-home ride reservation thing. I don't know how well that's going to work out, but changing the FastPass window enforcement, it's not going to affect me personally, though I do know it will certainly affect the way people plan their trips. It'll basically force you to use FastPass more effectively, more efficiently, and really, stick to that window that you get when you get that ticket. So, a lot of people really hate the idea of this change. For me, again, it just won't affect the way that I personally use FastPass, and I think people are just gonna have to get used to the new way of doing it. It's Disney is. Seems like they're doing it for a reason, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes come a month from now when the first group of people show up after the time and really start to complain that, 3 days before they were able to come back anytime, and now all of a sudden they won't. Of course, there will be exceptions if a ride goes down, if there's technical issues, etc. The cast members will obviously be there to make those exceptions. So now let's move to something else that was pretty big that happened this week at Walt Disney World. Super Bowl champion and MVP New York Giants quarterback Eli Manning, after a 21-17 win over the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl, shouted, "I'm going to Disney World," and did just that on Monday. Was on Main Street, USA, at the Magic Kingdom in a motorcade. It's a long-standing tradition for the Super Bowl MVP to show up at Walt Disney World and join football Mickey in a motorcade down Main Street with other characters and confetti and cheering fans and all of that kind of thing. And Mr. Manning also had a chance to offer a few thoughts about, how much fun he has when visiting Walt Disney World. And, he didn't really have time to ride some rides, apparently, but he did have a few things to say. So let's hear what, standing in front of Cinderella Castle, New York Giants quarterback Eli Manning said this.
Great to get here this morning. A lot of fun, great weather, great crowd, and it's just a great parade, and enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to enjoy this victory with my teammates, with my coaches. Looking forward to getting back to New York and spending some time with them, and then we'll get to enjoy being world champions for about 6 months, and then it's going to be, hey, we got another season. We got to try to compete and get better, improve on some things. And so I still hopefully have a long career ahead of me. I'd like to get another opportunity to get a few more of these. It's a pretty nice feeling, and I love coming here to Disney World. So I'm just going to enjoy this ride and just have fun playing football.
And there you have it. Eli Manning, quarterback of the Super Bowl 46, I believe, champion New York Giants at Walt Disney World. All right, so we talked about sort of this next generation experience at the Magic Kingdom with FastPass and all of that. Well, apparently Disney is nowhere near done making quote-unquote improvements to attractions. They've certainly been changing around a lot of queues, making them interactive around the park, and they're planning on doing many, many more of that. And it seems that the latest interactive area or interactivity is going to be for It's a Small World of all attractions, something that I wouldn't have expected, but it seems nowadays just about any attraction is possible to have a video screen added to it and have some sort of interactive content. Apparently, It's a Small World, the experience is going to actually begin at home before your trip, where you can design your own doll. Small World doll, Mary Blair style doll. And then when you show up to It's a Small World at the Magic Kingdom, you're going to see screens somewhere. Maybe on the ride, maybe in the show scenes, maybe on your vehicles. That much is not clear. Disney hasn't officially announced all of this, but it seems like it is in the works. There are some strong rumors suggesting as much. And you'll see that doll that you created virtually, not a real one, but on a screen somewhere. Apparently, you'll be able to send some virtual postcards from the attraction as well. This seems to be the growing trend about all Disney attractions. This whole, not only can you interact with things on the ride or before the ride or after the ride, but that you're going to have a part in the ride, and it all plays into this next-gen experience that, Disney isn't officially talking about most of it, but they're really working on ways of integrating guests' experience in the parks into all of the attractions. It certainly is something that I am not thrilled about all the time. I think Disney did a really great job with the interactivity at the finale of the Haunted Mansion as an example of wonderful improvement, but you can imagine it'll look a bit odd to have these traditional Mary Blair dolls and It's a Small World, and then they have just a big giant video screen next to it showing these flat 2D versions that have been put together to resemble families and then have like a message on there so you can know it's yours. That would be a bit jarring and odd. That's not to say that Disney won't integrate it well, maybe stick it in the intro or the finale scene where there's already a lot of flat imagery anyway. Disney does do a good job most of the time in working on this, but I don't know that all of this is necessary. I think this transition from a passive experience in the parks to this active experience and interactive is not necessarily good. I like to just sit back and enjoy my ride without having to worry about touching things and pressing buttons and, looking at screens and all of that. I think the update to Spaceship Earth over at Epcot, the finale of it, the second half, is definitely far inferior to the previous version of Spaceship Earth because you spend the whole time looking at a screen. And sure, it's cute that you pressed a bunch of buttons, virtual buttons on the screen, and you planned your future, as they say. But that's not the Disney experience that I want. That's a Disney experience I would expect on the website for it. And if that's what we can expect out of something like It's a Small World, then I would not be looking forward to that, of course. We don't know exactly what's going to be going on, but this whole next-gen concept, I think there's a lot of things that need some extra thought that maybe hasn't happened. It seems like a lot of it's being interactive for the sake of being interactive, and that's not the way to go. So that's where I stand on that. We'll see what happens and if this whole It's a Small World thing really does go through. But let's continue with the Magic Kingdom, and this is something that is definitely happening, and this is something I am definitely all for, new food options over at the Magic Kingdom. Unfortunately, they're kids' food options, but they still look quite delicious. They're for kids ages 3 to 9, and kind of run through a few of these that are available over at Tony's Town Square. There's a new steak skewer, spadini, as they're calling it, with roasted sweet potato fries and fresh fruit, along with separately, a different dish's grilled cheese sandwich on a multi-grain bread sliced into dippers with tomato sauce on the side. So sort of like a grilled cheese and tomato soup, sort of. Then over at the Liberty Tree Tavern, there's a new barbecued chicken and pineapple flatbread pizza with a side of crisp veggies and apples. Also an oven-roasted turkey with mashed potatoes, veggies, and fruit. If you head on into Cinderella's Royal Table, you'll now find a chicken drumette with rice and broccolini, grilled beef skewers with mashed potatoes and corn, and a chicken pot pie topped with a biscuit crust. And boy, does that sound good. And then over at the Plaza Restaurant, they've got a grilled chicken slices, couscous, and a fresh fruit skewer. All of it just sounds and looks delicious to me. Kids meal or not, I might have to get it. And some of it's a little bit surprising. Kids can be finicky eaters, picky eaters, and if you give them a plate full of fruit and couscous, I'm not sure that all kids are going to be up for that. They're looking for chicken fingers and pizza. But I guess if you raise your kids to enjoy that sort of a meal, then it's even better. Personally, I want to eat all of this stuff, and if I had kids, I would hope that they would want to eat it, and maybe if they didn't eat it, that's too bad for them. I don't know, but I think it sounds good. I'm glad to see that the Magic Kingdom is getting some better sounding, better looking, probably better tasting food that they've had. The Magic Kingdom definitely falls way behind Disneyland Park out in California in terms of food. Disneyland has so much good food, and it keeps increasing with the new Jolly Holiday Bakery that opened up. Really great sandwiches there, and so I'm glad to see some attention being paid to Magic Kingdom out here and not just Epcot, where it seems like a lot of the food has been, the good food has been going for so much time now. Disney's Hollywood Studios still way far behind in the food department. Not a lot of great options to eat there, but anyway, so Magic Kingdom food on the rise, good stuff. Hopefully they'll the next announcement will be new meals for adults as well as children. While we're talking about Magic Kingdom, here's, I've been getting a lot of questions lately, a lot of emails wondering what's going on with Fantasyland. When are parts of Fantasyland opening? What's happening over there? So how about a little bit of a Fantasyland update? And I'll mention real quick that if you head on over to InsideTheMagic.net, you'll find some great photos that were making their way around sort of the realm of cast members recently. There was a crane set up alongside Cinderella Castle while they were doing some sprucing up of the castle turrets and all of that. And a cast member up there snapped some fantastic photos of a vantage point that really nobody ever gets. A crane literally way up high above Cinderella Castle. And if you head on over to InsideTheMagic.net, you can see the whole series of photos. They're really spectacular photos. And of course, from up there, you can see very well into New Fantasyland and see the progress of everything there. And it is all coming along. Of course, it's still a construction site, not the prettiest thing in the world. A lot of gray concrete and rebar and all of that. But it's definitely moving along very well. A lot of people are asking me, what date is this going to open? What date is that going to open? And I can't say for sure because Disney hasn't said anything for sure yet, other than we'll start with Dumbo. That's going to be reopening apparently next month. It was going to reopen this month in February. Now it's been pushed back to March, and it seems like the double Dumbo may open then. It may only be half of the Dumbo, not quite sure yet, but in addition to that, it's likely that around the same time the train station over in Storybook Circus will open, and possibly Casey Jr.'s little water play splash area as well. After that, it's unclear. Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast area, including the Be Our Guest restaurant, are supposed to open this year, 2012, but it's probably not going to happen until late 2012, just because it is still very much under construction at this point. It's certainly not going to be done in the coming days or weeks. It'll take a few months. Beyond that, not too sure. So unfortunately, I don't have any good answers to give anybody looking for dates for a new Fantasyland, other than to say you'll be able to once again ride Dumbo, as long as everything stays on schedule next month, and I am personally looking forward to all of it quite a bit. It looks really, really exciting every time I go over to the Magic Kingdom and see it all unfolding there. I don't publish a lot of construction photos just because it is really unsightly. I don't think it's very magical to look at, as I said, all this concrete and unpainted rock work and all of that. It's interesting, but it's not magical. So I don't, try to publish that sort of thing, but I do enjoy looking at it when I'm in the parks and just seeing it all come along. It's really shaping up and looking like New Fantasyland, if for no other reason, is going to be a beautiful area to just walk around. So something else coming to Walt Disney World in the near future, within the next few months. Disney's Art of Animation Resort is going to be opening up at least its first phase on May 31st of this year. And this week, Disney offered a first look of a new part that they haven't shown off yet. It's a merchandise location called the Ink and Paint Shop. And it's basically themed as an animator's workspace, as they put it. It's got a lot of paint cans and bright colors and all that kind of thing. Apparently it's been designed and produced, or is being produced, with a lot of materials from recycled content, as well as United States manufactured pieces that they're putting together this store with. This is going to be one of the main stores at the Art of Animation Resort. And of course, most Disney fans like to shop, myself included. So I'll be excited to get on over to that new hotel when it begins to open at the end of May. Probably just a few weeks before Cars Land opens out in California. We're going to get Art of Animation out here. It's going to be a pretty busy time, as summer usually is. Should be a lot of fun. The hotel is going to be a really nice new value level resort, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. So let's get back to the world of sports here a little bit, but it's not the Super Bowl. It's not. We're not talking about Eli Manning anymore. This time we're actually going to go over to ESPN Wide World of Sports, where just today, like I said, I'm recording on Saturday night, so if this is a Sunday episode, technically yesterday. Regardless, First Lady Michelle Obama was here in town not too long after her husband, President Obama, was here just a couple of weeks ago. Well, the First Lady was here as part of her Let's Move initiative, and along with Disney's Magic of Healthy Living. She was at Wide World of Sports along with Perry the Platypus from Disney Channel series Phineas and Ferb, and some Disney Channel and Disney XD stars, and around 1,500 local children and families. families. They all sort of danced together and had fun together and just kind of got themselves moving. I mean, that was the entire point, was to get some exercise and really move instead of just sitting around all the time. Soccer drills, cooking demos, all of that kind of thing. And so let me take you over to the wide world of sports here, just for a quick sort of highlight of Michelle Obama's appearance, but just speaking a little bit. But she also did a special dance, the Platypus Walk, along with everybody, which was pretty amusing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of the United States of America, Mrs. Michelle Obama.
You all are having some good fun out here.
Yes.
You know, I am happy to be here. We are celebrating the 2nd anniversary of Let's Move. I have been traveling all over the country. I've been to Iowa, watching how kids are eating well and changing their schools. So now I hear you all have been practicing something for me, right? You got a little dance you want to show me? I haven't. You guys know I like to dance. I haven't completely gotten the dance down, but I'm gonna watch you all, right? All right, you all ready to do some dancing?
Let's go.
All right.
Platypus, here we go.
Platypus walk, top the platypus dog. Go up the platypus walk, top the platypus dog. Walk the platypus walk, top the platypus dog. Well, if you're wet-footed, duck-billed, semi-aquatic, if you soft, you fuzzy, and charismatic, if I think kinda enigmatic, then you just might be a platypus fanatic.
Okay, so there you go. A little bit of what went on over at Disney's Wide World of Sports with Michelle Obama's appearance. Pretty amusing dance moves there. Funny to see the First Lady joining in with Perry the Platypus and the Disney Channel stars and all the kids dancing around and doing the platypus walk. So definitely some amusing things there. If you want to actually see that video, those of you not watching the video version of this show, head on over to our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Inside the Magic to check that out. And, of course, with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about Star Tours here, something we've talked extensively about with the new version of the attraction. Of course, Disney closed the original Star Tours ride back in 2010 to make way for Star Tours The Adventures Continue. New 3D version of the ride with all these new destinations, et cetera, but a lot of people still miss the original Star Tours with Captain Rex and all of that. So now just in time to help celebrate the Star Tours 25th anniversary at Disneyland, independent filmmaker Gregory Nowako, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but anyway, Gregory recreated the original Star Tours ride in its entirety. He called it Star Tours Origins. He did it in 3D computer graphics in incredible detail, and threw a few extras in there as well, some bonus little tidbits for Disney fans to notice. It's all online. You can check it out over at InsideTheMagic.net. I didn't have any part in creating this, though he did give me a special thanks credit at the end for helping him out toward the end with some advice on some things. So that was really nice of him. But this is all his project. He's over in France. Of course, Disneyland Paris still has the original version of Star Tours there. Hasn't been replaced with The Adventures Continue yet. But anyway, if you want to see just the coolest version of the original Star Tours that you've ever seen, possibly even better than the actual original, because this is in 3D, much like the new version in the parks. If you've got red and blue glasses, or you can do the cross-eyed thing, or you can even hook it up to a 3D display, it's on YouTube in 3D, which is really awesome because, of course, the original Star Tours was not in 3D in the parks. So very, very well done. Head on over to Inside the Magic to check it out. If you were a fan of Star Tours, you really, really don't want to miss it. So now here's some interesting non-Disney news that emerged this week as I sort of received two separate things going on simultaneously that sort of morphed together into one story that started to actually make some sense. I received a survey a few days ago about Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights listing, they send out these surveys a lot just saying, hey, here's a bunch of movies, TVs, and celebrities, TV shows and celebrities. Would you like to see any of these in Halloween Horror Nights? And it's not always that, any of these would actually show up. They're just kind of testing the waters, seeing if any of it is interesting. Some of the names that were included in there were horror movie directors Eli Roth, John Carpenter, Clive Barker, Guillermo del Toro, John Landis and Wes Craven, along with musical artists AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath / Ozzy Osbourne, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, Alice Cooper, and two magic acts were included in there as well, Chris Angel and Penn and Teller. Well, Penn and Teller sort of caught my eye there. They were first at Halloween Horror Nights way back in the first Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Hollywood in 1992. They performed there at the time. Then just a couple of days later, after I saw that survey, I saw online that Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller was here in Orlando. Teller was too. They had a show here, but Penn specifically said he was heading on over to Universal Orlando to talk about something. In fact, he tweeted, this is exactly what he said, quote, "We did a fun show for home builders this morning, and then one of the most exciting meetings ever at Universal. If we do this, it'll be great." Very interesting tweet there. That, coupled with the survey about Halloween Horror Nights that I received, leads me to believe that perhaps Penn and Teller will be performing at Halloween Horror Nights, maybe developing a show for Halloween Horror Nights, maybe even developing a haunted house for Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But certainly they're talking about something with Universal, which has me excited because I'm big fans. I am a big fan of Penn and Teller. I saw them at San Diego Comic-Con last year when they were promoting their show that seems to have disappeared off TV already. Penn and Teller Tell a Lie, which was it was an alright show, but their in-person act is great. I've seen them a couple of times now, and they're always not only incredibly entertaining, but also extremely willing to meet with fans anytime after the show. They always hang around, and I met them and got their autographs and all that kind of thing. Great guys. So to have them involved with Halloween Horror Nights would be a whole lot of fun. I definitely hope that is what's going on there. So on a related note, though not entirely Universal this time, something good event is coming up. It's going to be the third year in a row for this event, and I am looking forward to it, and you should be too if you're going to be in the Orlando area. It's the Entertainment Designer Forum. As I said, it's the third annual. It features theme park designers, not only from Universal Orlando, but also this time around from Busch Gardens and Disney as well. It's going to be on February 24th, so just a couple of weeks from now, a little less than a couple of weeks. A new location this time. It isn't downtown Orlando once again, but it's at the Orange County Regional History Center this time, which of course is currently home to the Serious Art of Make-Believe exhibit, which is all about Universal Orlando artwork. 100% of proceeds from this event are donated to the American Cancer Society, which is certainly fantastic. And basically by attending, you will learn from and hear from and ask questions to and meet leading theme park designers that are currently in their fields. There's two sessions at 6:30 and then at 9 p.m. It's $25 per session. And here's some of the names that are going to be there. Scott Swenson, who's Director of Creative Services over at Busch Gardens, in charge of their Hallow Scream, amongst other things. Mike West, who coincidentally I just saw at Lowe's earlier today. I didn't say anything to him or anything. He was walking out as I was going in. But anyway, he's executive producer of Universal Creative and former Walt Disney Imagineer. He most recently, that I know of, worked on the Simpsons ride. I'm sure he's done other things since then. David Hughes, designer for Universal. Laura Wallace, designer for Universal. Ron Hines for Nickelodeon Recreation. TJ Manorino for Universal as well. And that's all in the first session. Second session is going to feature Mike Wallace from Universal, Curtis Hopkins from Universal, Guy Petty from Walt Disney Imagineering, Vicky Bolin from Universal, Kenny Babel from Whitebird Entertainment, and Kim Grommel from Universal. And moderating both will be Mike Aiello, great guy, show director over at Universal as well. Not that the other people aren't great guys. They're all, and girls, they're all wonderful people, great people to know and to talk to. And I definitely recommend anybody who's going to be in the Orlando area, a great event to go to. Should be a lot of fun, as it always is, and it goes for a great cause as well. So now let's jump coasts over to the Disneyland Resort, where a really exciting announcement was made this week that has a lot of people excited. Disneyland announced the Earl of Sandwich will be coming to downtown Disney in Anaheim, California. Of course, there is one out here in Florida at downtown Disney. There's one that recently opened at Disneyland Paris. This will be the third Disney Earl of Sandwich. It's going to be built next to the existing AMC theaters at Disneyland. It's going to be finished or ready to go in summer of 2012, so just a few months from now. It's replacing the Compass Books bookstore, and it's going to be the only Earl of Sandwich in California. So definitely really good food. They're good sandwiches. Long lines out here at Walt Disney World all the time. I imagine the lines are going to be long out in California as well. And of course, now you Californians can look forward to enjoying the wonderful, wonderful sandwich that is the holiday sandwich come the end of the year, where it's just filled with turkey and stuffing and cranberry and gravy and all that yummy, yummy stuff. Definitely the best sandwich of the year that everybody looks forward to out here. I would imagine they're going to have it out there as well, amongst all their other great sandwiches. So good announcement there. Coming up pretty soon, a little more than a month from now, a special event launching a new product out at Disneyland Resort. It's going to be custom letter plaques from Dave Avanzino, and I'm sure you've seen Dave Avanzino's they're almost like paper sculptures, but they're not just paper. There's these multi-leveled, really unique sculptures that spell out words using design elements. So he's done, I have a number of his pieces. He's done New Orleans Square and Tiki Room and Jungle Cruise and Pirates and Haunted Mansion and Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. And anyway, it spells these out using elements from the area for each letter. You know, an A can look like the Matterhorn, for example. And now they're working on, at Disneyland in the Disney Gallery, creating custom versions where you can have your own name, ranging from 1 to 20 letters, and you can have it customized with cool Disney variations. The prices are a bit steep, and they are limited, first come, first served basis. It's all beginning March 10th. Prices start at 4 letters for $495, up to 20 letters for $995. So they are pricey, but certainly a chance to get a really unique element. They won't be taking phone orders. You'll have to just show up. Disney Gallery, March 10th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is when you can get it done. So if you really, really like Dave Avanzino's work, that will be your time to have your own version of one of those made. And I think I was supposed to be playing this music while I was saying that. I got a little bit behind on my list here, but now moving on to the next story. Disney president and CEO Bob Iger was releasing, or part of the release of Disney's fiscal quarter one results a few days ago. Nothing terribly interesting came out of that, or surprising for that matter. Disney seems to be doing well overall. I won't go into all the dull financial specifics, but I will say that during that, Disney CEO Bob Iger officially said that Cars Land out at Disney California Adventure will indeed be opening in June. It was, of course, rumored that it's going to be opening June 14th for Media Day, 15th for everybody else. That is not confirmed, but what is now confirmed, it is definitely June, not May, not July, not any other time. It is going to be June, so you can look forward to that. We'll have, I'm sure, a more firm date in the near future. But in addition to that, just this week was the 11th anniversary of Disney California Adventure, and Disney announced some plans to actually rename a little bit of the park. They're going to rename a few of the park's lands, moving into sort of the reinvention of California Adventure. There will be 8 themed lands in the park, the 2 new areas, Buena Vista Street and Cars Land. And then here's the big renaming. Hollywood Pictures Backlot is going to become Hollywoodland. That's going to be the new name of that area. Of course, a reference to the old Hollywood Hills sign that used to read Hollywoodland years and years ago. Now it just reads Hollywood, but it's going to be called Hollywoodland, and that's 2 words with a capital L. The Golden State area, which is sort of a big area all lumped together, is now going to be referred to as separate areas, Condor Flats and Grizzly Peak. Technically, they were already those, but they weren't officially each separate lands. Now they will be. And then, of course, there will be Bugs Land, Pacific Wharf, and Paradise Pier, rounding out the 8 lands of California Adventure. Those changes will happen this summer when Cars Land opens and Buena Vista Street. And for you Disneyland annual pass holders out there, you can look forward to kind of getting a preview of everything new that will be in California Adventure, even more of a preview that has already been shown off. From March 27th to 29th, there's going to be an annual pass holder preview of merchandise, food, entertainment, costumes, and new guided tours for the Disneyland Resort that are all coming this summer. The preview is going to be in Stage 17 of Disney California Adventure. You don't have to sign up. You just show up as an annual pass holder for Disneyland, and you simply show your pass from between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily for those 3 days. Annual pass holders only can get into this area, not guests, not anything, just the pass holders themselves. But Disney's promising to show off some stuff that you haven't seen before, and you get an opportunity to purchase all of that new fun California Adventure merchandise that hasn't been available yet before everybody else. And here's something that is likely on its way to Buena Vista Street at California Adventure, though not confirmed for sure. On the Disney Auditions website this week, they posted a need for a female singer along with some band members for a little band that'll going to have the same sort of style as Ella Fitzgerald or Billie Holiday, as they put it, playing sort of jazz standards of the 30s. It'll include a string bass, a tuba player, guitar, a banjo player, a drummer, woodwind, tenor sax, and a trumpet player. So I can't imagine that would be for anything else than California Adventure at this point. Sounds like the live music that is so wonderful at Disneyland Park is going to make its way into Disney California Adventure now, which really excites me. I always enjoy, as I shared last week on the show, I shared the Jambalaya Jazz Band from New Orleans Square. So to get even more live music into the park and a different, bit of a different style, we're going to be talking about 30s music here. Should be really, really exciting to hear that over in Disney California Adventure. So now let's move on to another topic entirely. We're going to be talking about Disney Cruise Line, and I didn't have any Disney Cruise Line music. I'm not even sure what Disney Cruise Line music is, so we're going to play this instead. Speaking of Disney Cruise Line, though, this week Disney Cruise Line took possession of their newest ship, the Disney Fantasy, in a traditional maritime ceremony from shipbuilder Meyer Werft. Whatever. Anyway, the shipbuilder's flag was lowered, Disney Cruise Line's flag was raised, and Disney is now in control of their ship. It is done. The ship is complete. The maiden voyage of the Disney Fantasy will be on March 31st of this year, of course, from Port Canaveral. That's about a month and a half from now. It's actually going to be departing from Germany in just a few days on February 16th for its transatlantic voyage to the United States. And its expected arrival eventually down here in Florida will be March 6th. But prior to that, the Fantasy's heading on up to New York for its christening on March 1st. The Disney Fantasy is going to be helmed by Captain Tom Forberg. And it's certainly very exciting, and I got some exciting news as well, just as I did last year for the preview voyage of the Disney Dream. I will once again be sailing on a Disney Fantasy preview cruise this time around. I'm really looking forward to that. This time around, it's going to be a 3-night preview sailing toward the end of March, a few days before the maiden voyage, and I'll absolutely, of course, come back with a full report of this new ship, the similarities and the differences to the Disney Dream. Of course, I'm really looking forward to riding the Aqueduct, as always. That was my favorite part of the Disney Dream, and so much more. There's a lot of really fun things, new things looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing on the Disney Fantasy, the animation magic sort of technological marvel that they're putting into the Animator's Palette Restaurant, the new Muppets interactive adventure throughout the ship, and the new Broadway-style shows and new lounges, and so much that'll be different from the Disney Dream to this sister ship the Disney fantasy. So I'm definitely really, really looking forward to seeing all of that. And as I said, I'll certainly be coming back with another massive report to tell you all about the new ship at the end of March. And that's enough of the yodeling. Let's move on from there. Let's turn to some movie news now, where we're talking about Mary Poppins here for a moment, where a Mary Poppins-themed screenplay apparently is out there called Saving Mr. Banks. And, wow, my lights just turned off in my office. That was different. That hasn't happened on a show before. Let's turn those back on. Moving on. Okay. Anyway, Mary Poppins-themed screenplay being purchased reportedly by Disney called Saving Mr. Banks, written by Kelly Marcel, all about the 14 years in which Walt Disney, years ago, spent trying to acquire the film rights to the novel of Mary Poppins. It is reported that Tom Hanks is going to play Walt Disney in this movie, should it happen, along with Meryl Streep playing the original author of Mary Poppins. Yeah, it's not official, it's not announced, but that is what is being reported. We'll see if that movie gets made. Further, speaking about movies, this is sort of something that everybody's not too thrilled with. There's been an ongoing battle, if you will, about when movies should be released after they've been in theaters. How long do they remain in theaters? When do they come home? When are they available for rental? When are they available for online streaming? Well, Warner Brothers, Universal, and Fox are apparently telling Netflix, well, it's got to be at least 4 weeks out from DVD date before you can start renting it. They want to maximize their DVD and Blu-ray sales. Well, now Disney is considering having a streaming content delay for Netflix and also for rental services, Redbox, etc. Seems like all the major studios are really getting on board to where they want you to, go see it in theaters first and foremost. Then weeks later, the home release happens. Then they want you to go buy it. And then 4 weeks after that, they want you to then be able to rent it. And of course, consumers not thrilled with that. I'm not thrilled with that because I hate going to the movie theater. Too many rude people, too many issues, too many poor theaters with bad projections and terrible sound systems and rude people and rude people. So I like watching things at home. I don't mind buying movies at all. So that shrinking that window from theater to Blu-ray release, I'm happy with that. But rentals, if I had access to a Netflix account that just had an endless supply of every movie ever and it was available right away, I would just do that. And I guess that's what they're afraid of. They don't want they don't want the Blu-ray industry, the DVD industry to disappear. They don't want the movie theaters to disappear. But I think they should be focused on improving those experiences rather than just, putting time delays on everything to force people to buy one format or the other. Just my take on that. All right, here's a sweepstakes. You want to win a trip to go to Disney's Aulani out in Hawaii. I certainly would like to go there. Well, courtesy of the new movie John Carter that's coming out next month, there is the John Carter Journey to Aulani sweepstakes. You can enter daily over at disney.com/John Carter Sweeps. That contest period ends on March 23rd, in which case they will pick a winner to go to Disney's Aulani Hotel out in Hawaii. And probably won't be me, but good luck if you enter. And almost wrapping up the news here. As I said earlier, this is a very different sort of show. We got 52 minutes worth of news here so far, but not a whole lot after this. This is really the entirety of the show, mostly. Some listener feedback. But anyway, getting ahead of myself here. Still have a little bit more news, and one of those stories is actually came in from Inside the Magic listener Robert, who let me know that anybody out there interested in Connect Disneyland Adventures, you want to try it out, you don't necessarily want to buy it. Well, now apparently there is a demo version of Connect Disneyland Adventures available for download in the Xbox Live Marketplace. So if you have an Xbox 360, you have a Connect, you're not sure if you want to get Connect Disneyland Adventures, you don't have a way of renting it, this is a good way to download a demo of it and give it a shot. And final thing here is actually something coming up here in Orlando. Has really nothing to do with Disney, theme parks, Universal, really any of that. And I don't know why I'm playing Tron music here in the background. Just because it sounded good. Megacon is coming up this coming Friday through Sunday, February 17th through 19th. Always a fun time. Lots of pop culture, and I guess there's a Disney reference there. It's, a convention, Comic-Con style convention, comics and sci-fi and fantasy and celebrities and all of that kind of thing. And that's coming up. I always go every year, take lots of pictures, and I do often run into a lot of people dressed as Disney characters, which is a lot of fun, or variations of Disney characters, like Disney princess zombies and things like that. So, if you're going to be there, be sure to look for me and say hi. Otherwise, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net afterwards for a recap and see all the crazy costumes that people come up with there at Megacon. So there we go. Just about 54 minutes into the show. That will do it for your news from around the world this week. Here's a tip that I found to be really, really amusing, and I just had to share it here. Hugo wrote in, and he says, "My name is Hugo, and I'm from Brazil." Very important there. I'm from Brazil. I've been listening to your podcast for almost 2 years now, and I find it very amusing and informative, and it sure makes my Mondays less boring coming and going from work. I just wanted to say that I just came back from Orlando. I love going there in January because the parks are emptier and the cold weather is completely tolerable, although this past January was fantastic. As usual, the parks were, in general, not crowded at all, but what kept bugging me was all the Brazilian tour groups clogging some of the attractions during the day, and that's the tip I wanted to share. I created a system where before entering a popular attraction like Splash Mountain or Tower of Terror or anything else for that matter, I would check the vicinity around the attraction for any sign of the tour groups, like a bunch of backpacks on the ground or those flag poles. If they were somewhere around, it means that they were inside the attraction and the lines would be crazy long. If there weren't any of these signs, then the probability of any group being inside was reduced greatly. It only took a couple of moments to check that out, and that saved some precious time in the parks. Unfortunately, to learn this lesson, I entered Space Mountain thinking I would only have to wait 30 minutes to ride, but got out of there a little over an hour later. I don't know if this was shared on Inside the Magic already, since I'm a fairly recent listener, so I hope this tip helps anyone out there. Hugo, excellent tip. Certainly this time of year, much as yourself, you traveled from Brazil. As you're well aware, many tour groups travel as well. And that is an excellent point. Though you cannot necessarily avoid the tour groups, mass quantities of people all traveling together, you can't avoid them in the streets necessarily. You can definitely look for those telltale signs outside of the attractions and avoid those unexpectedly long delays inside. Everyone else out there, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. And before we wrap up the show with some listener feedback, I do, of course, want to put in a quick word about Lanyard Lab. This is what I do by day when I'm not doing Inside the Magic. I am running lanyardlab.com, and what we do there is customize lanyards. Whether you've got a business you want to promote, a convention you're going to, or, church, school, something where you need to wear a name tag around your neck, you're going to want to head on over to lanyardlab.com, and there you can customize your lanyard options, colors, logos, text, whatever it is that you want to put on there. Submit all that to us. We'll email you back with a price code along with a proof showing you what the lanyards will look like. If you're happy with it all, you just place your order online. It is as easy as that. There's no obligation to purchase either. You can do all of that for free, except for, of course, get the lanyards. That actually costs some money. But so check it all out over at lanyardlab.com. That's LANYARDLAB.com.
Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
I started off the show with some real easygoing music from Disney's Animal Kingdom. Figured I'd throw in some more Animal Kingdom beats here near the tail end of the show. It is now approaching 1 in the morning, but that's not late for me at all. So we'll just keep on rolling here. Go through some listener feedback. Maybe take a few questions from the chat room as well. If anyone out there in the live chat room over at InsideTheMagic.net/live has anything to ask me, prepare your questions. Don't write them yet because I'll probably miss them by the time I finish all these other emails and calls as well. But when I say go, then go ahead and ask them there. But first, let's get to some emails. And actually, one thing that I want to mention here, we have a great Inside the Magic listener out there that is a lot of fun. His name is Eric, and he's actually part of a band called the Fab Four. You Disney fans out there may recognize that name from Disneyland's Tomorrowland Terrace, where that Beatles cover band, really excellent, I wouldn't even say cover band, tribute band, really fantastic band, used to play out at Disneyland for years and years. Well, they've moved on from there, but they're actually coming out here to Orlando. They're going to be playing at the Plaza Theater on May 5th. They've also got an upcoming PBS special called the Fab Four, the Ultimate Beatles Tribute. That'll be on PBS this summer. So really exciting there. If you're going to be out here in Orlando, definitely check out their show. Tickets go on sale on just 5 days from now on February 17th over at plazaliveorlando.com. And, of course, you can check your listings come this summer. I'll probably mention it again when it happens to check out the PBS special of them playing as well. You can also go to their website over at thefab4.com. So moving on from there, let's get to an email from Rob, who writes, "Hello from London. Some friends and I from England are visiting Orlando for 2 weeks in March, and for the first time in 5 years, and I'm hearing that the parks will be really busy due to spring break. Are there any tips to avoid too many crowds, such as visiting certain parks on certain days?" Well, Rob, congrats on a first visit in quite a while, and March, yeah, on and off can be a little bit busy because of spring break. It's sort of March/April. It's throughout here and there. You can't really predict exactly when and where the crowds are going to hit. Mondays are generally Magic Kingdom's busiest days for whatever reason. I don't know what the, reasoning for that happening is, but it's generally the case that you'll find heavy crowds on that park on that day, spring break or otherwise. But beyond that, I couldn't say. Of course, weekends are going to be heavier crowds because locals will go out as well. But when it comes to spring break, it's just, all over the place. There are certainly a number of websites out there that claim to be able to predict lines based on historical data. You could try using one of many of those. I don't have one in particular that I can recommend. But beyond that, just, I've found that it's generally the case that all the parks won't be crowded at the same time. And if you're going to be park hopping, you can just kind of go to a park, and if it feels really crowded, just hop on over to a different park. You might have better luck. Next email from John, who writes, "Thinking of visiting Disneyland, when is the best time to visit? Cheapest flights, slow days? When is Cars Land expected to completely or to be completed to open? I guess I should wait for that." John, sort of a similar question to the last email, except on the other coast now. And again, I can't necessarily predict everything about it, but I can tell you a really good time to visit is right now, or rather a few weeks ago, and January. Really nice time to be out at Disneyland just after the spring break season ends, which is going to be sort of end of April, early May is a nice time. However, if your goal is to get there for Cars Land, you're going to want to wait until after mid-June or so. However, again, double however, that's going to be summer, and summer is going to be extremely crowded at Disneyland, particularly after Cars Land opens. If your goal is to both see Cars Land and avoid the crowds, I would say wait until 2013. No, I would say wait until after summer. Maybe September would be a good time to go after all the hype has gone away, after the summer crowds have gone away, after kids have gone back to school, second, third week of September, right before the Halloween season starts. But after the summer season has ended, that is a good time to go, and you'd be able to see it all with likely smaller crowds. Next up is an email from Aton, or Aton, A-T-O-N, who writes, when is Disney's Hollywood Studios going to get a new, improved, lifelike phantasmic dragon similar to the Disneyland one? And when are they going to add new characters and new floats and special effects to Phantasmic? Great question. I would love for Disney's Hollywood Studios Phantasmic to be upgraded. Of course, Disneyland had some issues with the Murphy dragon that, as it was dubbed, had some technical problems when it first came around, but it's working well now and certainly has some enhanced scenes as well and is, in my opinion, a much better version of Phantasmic. And so hopefully we'll get it. I haven't heard anything one way or the other, though, unfortunately. I don't really have an answer for you. Next up, email from either Louis or Luis or Lewis. Anyway, whoever that is writes, I listen to the podcast every week and look forward to all the news and fun. I've been a longtime Disney fan since I was a kid and have been to Disney World countless times. And last year I made my first trip to Disneyland. I do a little spring break trip to Disney World every year, but this year I'm cheating on Mickey to visit Universal Orlando for a day. I bought a one-day ticket with express passes to both Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida, and I'm going on a Saturday when it is Mardi Gras. So I'm thinking of visiting Universal Studios in the morning, the rest of the day at Islands of Adventure, especially Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which I haven't seen yet. It is time for me to go there. If you could give me some insider tips to make my day more fun on my Disney escape day. Well, Louis or Luis or something like that. Good idea. Getting over to Universal is always fun, especially during Mardi Gras. It just actually started tonight. Again, I'm recording this Saturday night, but it is going on for a number of weekends through the next few weeks. And my advice to you, if you want to catch all the best entertainment, is if you want to see Mardi Gras, you need to go at night, not during the day. So if you're going to go over to Universal Studios during the morning, you can do that. You can go to Islands of Adventure in the midday, but you got to get back to Universal Studios by night because that's when you're going to get the Mardi Gras parade, and that's when you're going to get whatever the concert is the night that you're going to be there. Whether you're interested in that particular musical act, I couldn't tell you, but that's going to be a large portion of the Mardi Gras entertainment. Of course, there is other things going on. There are other things going on, various bands performing and food and all of that kind of good stuff, but you're not going to want to miss that nighttime entertainment. So I personally would just recommend going to Islands for the first half of the day and then going over to Universal Studios Florida for the second half of the day. That would be my take on that. And now we are going to go on over to a voicemail from Andy.
Hey there, Ricky. This is Andy. Big fan of the show. Just found it, and I love it. Anyway, random question for you. More about personal preference. Just curious as to, what do you think is the most overrated attraction in the Disney park? The attraction that always has a long line, and you can't help but think, what's the big deal? Why do all these people like it? And on the flip side, what would you call the most underrated attraction? Something that you just can't understand why more people don't appreciate. Keep up the great work. Love the show, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Great. Thanks very much. Good questions there, and I probably should have prepared some answers for them. Just off the top of my head, overrated attractions, things that I think have way too long of a line that I never want to wait for. I'm not a big Splash Mountain fan. I know a lot of people are really big Splash Mountain fans, but the line can get really, really long there, and it's all right. It's a fun ride. It's a lot of great animatronics, which is wonderful. The drop is fun. I don't know, just something about it. It's not my favorite ride in the world, and especially over the summer where the ride can get the line can get really, 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 really long. You don't want to wait that long. You don't want to wait 90 minutes for Splash Mountain. That would be, I guess, the first one that comes to my head. Of course, I can also say Spaceship Earth. When a line develops there, you don't want to wait in that line, but that's for a different reason because you really shouldn't ever have to wait in a line for that. As far as an underrated attraction, one that I think should have a line, I don't think anything should have a line, but a ride that more people should see. I don't know. The Tomorrowland Transit Authority is one of my favorite things in the world, the people mover, and that very, very rarely has any kind of a wait, and that's a good thing, and that's kind of because of the ride that it is. But I think more people should ride it because I think they would enjoy it. It might get, I don't know if it even gets overlooked. I think it just gobbles a lot of people really quickly because it's a constant flow of seats. So I don't know. I'm not sure what... That's a tough one. An underrated ride. Something people should... Everybody visits everything so much. There's very few attractions out there that just get completely ignored. So I'm gonna have to think about that one, and apparently I'm gonna accidentally stop the music as well in the process. That's some hard thought going on there. Okay, there it goes. Anyway, thanks very much for that call. Next up, an email from Sherry from Utah, who writes, I'm a longtime fan of yours. This is the first time I've written to you, and I have to say thanks so much for the Disneyland hotel review. We always stay at a non-Disney hotel when we go to Disneyland to save money, but this time I'm treating my adult son to a trip to Disneyland to celebrate his recent graduation from college, and we're staying at the Disneyland hotel in 2 weeks from now for 3 nights. We found a 35% discount online and booked our stay, realizing it's still quite a bit more expensive than our usual hotel. I was wondering if it would be worth it, since we usually just need a place to sleep, but I have to say, based on your review, that we are really excited to stay in the magic. That pool, the theming, wow. Sherry, yeah, I'm glad you did. I'm glad my review was to help convince you to go there. That's kind of the goal, because I loved the new Disneyland hotel, the renovated version, as you heard, during my review, and you're just gonna love it too. I can't see why anybody would ever stay in this new version of the Disneyland hotel, a Disney fan staying there and not have a good time. It's absolutely just a wonderful place to hang out and to be and to sleep, and make sure you enjoy Trader Sam's as well. Next email from Lindsay writes, we will be heading to Walt Disney World in March, and I would like to spend a day resort hopping. We've been to the world many times, but have never actually just spent a day visiting resorts. We will be staying at Port Orleans Riverside and have a wedding site visit at Grand Floridian. After that, I'd really like to visit the monorail resorts, the Boardwalk, and Animal Kingdom Lodge. I know these are pretty spread out, but I've never been to the Boardwalk and stayed once at Animal Kingdom Lodge. I would love for my fiancé to get to see that amazing resort. So my question is, what would be a good plan of action to attempt to see all of them in a day, and where should we park? We're from Florida, so we will have a car, but I'm not sure if it would be better to leave it at a resort and take Disney transport from there, or to park somewhere else. Any insight would really help. Lindsay, I think you just answered your own question very quickly. Use your own car. Absolutely the easiest way to get around. For the most part. For the monorail loop, you could make use of that. You could park at Transportation Ticket Center. You could park at Grand Floridian. You could park at Polynesian. You could park at Contemporary. All of those, if you just tell them you're there to look around, to shop, to eat, to do whatever you want to see in those, they'll let you in to temporarily park there. Since you're going to the Grand Floridian anyway, well, I wouldn't say actually park there. Grand Floridian parking's a little bit annoying because you have to park across the street and then walk over. Not the most convenient thing in the world. Contemporary parking is very, very easy. You can park, very close to the big A-frame building and walk inside. Take the monorail around. The Polynesian parking is probably the easiest of the bunch, and Transportation Ticket Center, not so easy because you got a tram and all that. So I would recommend going over to the Polynesian, parking there, do your monorail loop, get back to the Polynesian, then drive to the other hotels that you want to see, Boardwalk, Animal Kingdom Lodge, anything else. That would be your easiest and best bet, in my opinion. Daniel writes in with something that I probably should have mentioned when it first came out, I think last week. He wanted to remind me about a new video that showed up online of some home film footage that was recently sort of converted to YouTube, and really looks fantastic, of Disneyland in 1957. It's not something that I can really tell you where to go, but look on YouTube for Disneyland 1957. There's a million links out there on various websites for it. It's some really excellent footage of what the park looked like back in those years. It's also fun to see how everybody kind of walked around in their nice clothes, and everybody was trim and fit and not all crazy touristy and pin trading and all of that kind of thing that goes on today. It was all very almost formal occasion, which was it's different, different time back in 1957. It's fun to see that video. Daniel, thanks for that reminder. Still a few more emails to go, so let's keep on going. Next one comes from Joe, who writes, a couple weeks ago, I was at Disney World for the first time since 2006. I'm just loving all the new upgrades that have made to the park since then, but I think there are kind of a few things that could be upgraded or replaced. So I want to know, are there any rides or shows that you think could use a much needed upgrade, facelift, or flat out replacement? Another tough question that I probably should have prepared a response for. They've been doing such a great job with so many of these. The Haunted Mansion's had, not that it needed it, but the Haunted Mansion has had some great upgrades. The Tiki Room is back to its mostly original form. I would have definitely said that. So my first thing that I think of when you say needs a replacement is Stitch's Great Escape. I'd like to see them just replace that with the old Alien Encounter. But even if that is impossible to happen, which is unfortunate, I would still say that attraction needs to go. It very, very rarely has crowds going, lines. It never has a line, and it's just kind of got a slow flow of people going through there. I think very few people in the world are really fans of Stitch's Great Escape, and I think that really, that whole area of Tomorrowland is just kind of sitting there with this attraction that nobody really likes, and I would love to see Tomorrowland get that kind of upgrade, sprucing up, and get some new awesome attraction to go in there. So that's the first one that comes to mind. Next, an email from Kelsey, who writes, is there a special room at Walt Disney World and Disneyland that you might call the Presidential Suite? I'm curious if there's a room at both parks built for the president or visiting royalty to stay at if they just take over a section of whatever hotel they feel like. Kelsey, I'm not sure if there's an area specifically that a president specifically would stay in, but there are definitely presidential suites, as they call them. Out here at Walt Disney World, there's one at the Contemporary, there's one at Animal Kingdom Lodge. I'm pretty sure all the deluxe resorts have a presidential suite. I know there are big, elaborate suites out at Disneyland as well that would be considered something like that. So I don't think there's, I'm not sure if there's something that's specifically for the president, but it is called a presidential suite. So hopefully that answers your question. Now a voicemail from Josh.
Hi, Dave. This is Josh from Seattle, a first-time caller, but I've been just listening. I have a couple quick questions. Me and my girlfriend are going down to Disneyland to celebrate Valentine's Day and our 6th anniversary, and I noticed that Fantasmic was not on the schedule, and I was curious if you knew why or where or how, if it's going to come back. Also, I just wanted to say that I very much have enjoyed your podcast. It's a great way to get me through my day, so thank you very much.
Great, thanks for that call. Unfortunately, I don't have much of an answer for you. Fantasmic certainly has its times. It comes and goes. Out here in Florida, it was gone, or mostly gone from the schedule for quite a while. It was on an infrequent basis. I think actually starting this week, it's getting to be more frequently performed out at Disneyland. As to why specifically it's not on the schedule, I unfortunately don't have an answer for you. Could be just a regular refurbishment, an update, time of the year when the crowds aren't as heavy. I'm honestly not too sure. Maybe somebody out there can enlighten me as to why that is. But fortunately, World of Color is something you can enjoy instead of Fantasmic. I know, not the same thing, but hard to say. I'm not sure, unfortunately. Here's an anonymous email who writes, I just wanted to thank you for making such an entertaining and informative podcast. I'm a 15-year-old New York resident who is currently in charge of planning a trip to Orlando, and hearing the parks hearing the plans for new entertainment in the parks has definitely been crucial in planning the trip. Instead of hearing some family members complain about how boring certain aspects are, which I would never see as boring, I now get to show them new experiences that we have missed on previous visits. If you have any suggestions as to what fun... There go the lights again. I don't know why my lights in my office keep turning off. That is really bizarre. It's a good thing I have my... No, I did. There it is. I have my lights in my office on a remote control. Of course I do. And so I can turn them back on. Anyway, now I can see what I'm doing once again. Moving on. Where was I? If you have any suggestions as to what fun family things there are to do outside of the parks, Walt Disney World Resort, Universal Studios, SeaWorld, etc., that would be very helpful. Thank you so much for the entertainment each week. Right, so I think your question was, what do you do that's fun outside of the parks? I got distracted by my lights spontaneously turning off. Anyway. International Drive area is fun for mini golf. That's always my go-to suggestion. I love mini golf, and there's plenty of it to be found there. I don't know if you meant specifically outside of the resorts in and around Orlando, or if you just literally mean outside of the parks. Within Walt Disney World, outside of the parks, you'll certainly find Downtown Disney is sort of the go-to place to hang out and do various things, Disney Quest, shopping, dining, etc. There's mini golf on Disney property as well, and I'm not sure when you're coming, but Universal is working on opening a new mini golf in just a couple of weeks as well, so that will probably be open when you come here. That should be a whole lot of fun. Beyond that, it really just depends. Family-friendly activities that are outside of the parks are a little bit harder to come by. A lot of people, you like to go clubbing and that kind of thing, but that's not necessarily for the whole family, especially with you being a 15-year-old. So again, my sort of go-to answer is find the coolest-looking mini golf course and give that a shot. That's always a good time. All right, just a couple more emails here. First from Luke, and this is a question I know I've been asked before, although it's sort of a little bit of a twist here. Luke writes, my fiance and myself listen to your podcast every week. We were looking for advice for honeymooners spending half their week at the Grand Californian. Any tips? More specifically, any in-park restaurant tips? Have you tried any of the spas? Just wondering if you had any tips for honeymooners and their first-time Disneyland folks. Well, first, congrats on all of that, the wedding and the honeymoon and all of that sort of thing. Grand Californian, I can't imagine a better place to be for a honeymoon. Love that hotel, and there is a spa there, and I have to imagine you will enjoy that very much. If you want to book a massage or some sort of treatment there, go for a couple's outing into the spa. I think you would certainly enjoy that. Hang out in the room. The rooms in the Grand Californian are wonderful, and you could just stay there all day. And as far as restaurants, there's the Napa Rose at the Grand Californian, which is a very nice restaurant, certainly appropriate for a honeymoon. For in the park, I don't know if you're going to find really a honeymoon-worthy restaurant at Disneyland Park. The Blue Bayou is certainly nice, and inside. If you happen to know a Club 33 member, getting in there would certainly be awesome for a honeymoon, but that's stretching it. You have to know somebody who's a member, or at least know somebody who knows somebody. But over at California Adventure, I don't know if you're going to find too many really sort of honeymoon romantic experiences in there, but yeah, that's hanging around the Grand Californian just in general is certainly a great place to be for a honeymoon. Just to enjoy, lounge around, and I think you'll have a great time. Final email, which means this is my cue for the chat room to go ahead and send out any questions that you might have, because after this email, I will answer a few from there, and then we'll wrap up the show. So now let me begin reading the email from Robert from Georgia, who writes, thanks, Ricky, for bringing us the audio from the 2000 Super Bowl in Atlanta. I'm honestly not a huge football fan and really didn't see this on TV, even though I'm only 45 minutes away from the Georgia Dome. Wish I had only watched it on TV, but had seen it live. What a great show. Doesn't hurt that I'm a huge fan of Reflections of Earth and Tapestry of Nations. So here's a question for you and a suggestion for all your listeners. Is there a better copy of the video online somewhere? The ones on YouTube are okay audio but poor video. Since most everyone listening to the podcast are Disney fans, I would hope, we should bombard the NFL with emails asking for Disney to do another halftime show. It seems like the NFL and other sports are trying to bring in more family-oriented stuff into their broadcast and productions. Who else can do family-oriented stuff better? That's right, no one can beat Disney. Though I'm sure this might have something to do with what network is showing the Super Bowl that year. If ABC has the contract, our emails for this mission should include ABC. So inside the Magic listeners, you have your assignment. Go to nfl.com/contact us and fill out the comment form. Demand a more family-friendly company like Disney to do a halftime show. After all, it is going to be in New Orleans, and Disney already has some music that could work in there, i.e. Princess and the Frog. Robert, I think that is a great idea. I also enjoyed that Super Bowl performance that I shared last week, which is why I shared it. And unfortunately, I don't know of a better copy other than the one I pulled from YouTube, and I'm sure the one that you found on YouTube as well. But yeah, I would like to see the Super Bowl go back to that type of a theatrical performance at halftime rather than sort of the one-off, Madonna or random band that they decide to throw on there that not everybody is going to be a fan of. So good idea. I'd love to write to, I encourage everybody, write to the NFL, see if we can get Disney to do another halftime show. I would certainly like to see that. All right, so just some quick chat room questions here. Let's see what anybody has come up with. Cake Gal is asking if I plan on being at the Cars Land opening in June, and I do, indeed, whenever that is, be it June 15th, 14th, 1st, 30th, whatever it's going to be. I'll figure it out, and I will definitely be out there to cover the Cars Land opening because, how could I not? It's been 5 years of Disney California Adventure improvements and expansion, and, this will be the culmination of it all. I have to see it completed, and it's events like that are always extremely busy, so I don't know if I'll have extra time for a meetup, as Juan in the chat room is suggesting. We'll have to wait and see what the schedule is like and how many extra days I can fit into a trip, but we'll see. And but yeah, regardless, I will certainly be out there. Let's see if we have any other questions from the chat room. That is what I was actually trying to think of a few minutes ago in the question about honeymooning out in California. Somebody mentioned the Wine Country Trattoria restaurant out there, and I thought of that, and I don't know if that would be a great honeymoon restaurant or not. It's certainly a possibility, but I think Napa Rose or Blue Bayou would be a little bit better. Let's see, any other questions from the chat room before we wrap all of this up? I've been talking for an hour and 23 minutes here, so as far as I can see, unless I'm just completely overlooking something here at 1:17 in the morning, I don't actually see any more questions. At least any more questions that I'm actually going to answer. Somebody asked something about bacon cheddar popcorn at Disneyland. I don't know anything about that. I haven't heard of that, and honestly, that sounds pretty gross. So if that is a thing at Disneyland, I don't want bacon cheddar popcorn. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. We're gonna end the show on bacon cheddar popcorn. That's it for your listener feedback this week. So there we have it. Despite the fact that there was, as I said, no sort of main feature on this week's show, I managed to still talk for a very long time about what was a surprisingly large amount of news this week. So good stuff there. Hopefully you enjoyed my rambling on and on and on about the latest news and all of my opinions inserted within. I'm certainly not going to do that every week. Generally don't have time to elaborate on all the different news stories with my own thoughts. Just, kind of run through them quickly normally because we have so much more to talk about. And certainly in the coming weeks, there will be a lot to talk about, a lot of new things opening, new things happening, things we're really looking forward to. But for now, good to just have sort of a chatty sort of show. I, of course, do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. And be sure to head on over to lanyardlab.com to see all of the different styles and custom lanyard options that we have available. You can request a price quote today to receive a free digital preview of your lanyard design. Of course, between episodes of this podcast, be sure to visit InsideTheMagic.net. It is not only home to each week's show notes, but also it is your source for Disney and theme park news. You'll find all of our podcasts and videos and photos and news and articles and links to find us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and keep up with all the latest fun throughout the week. So check it out, and I guess that's about it. So thanks very much for listening. Have a magical week. Goodbye.
There's a great big